Hello everyone, I am Vijay Krishna, Assistant Professor in Department of Mechanical Engineering in Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. Now I will be dealing with the subject called Engineering Tribology. Today's topic I will be dealing with Introduction to the Engineering Tribology. First we will see tribology is nothing but a word derived from the Greek word tribos. Tribos meaning is nothing but a rubbing. In simple, tribology is nothing but a rubbing. Tribology is a science that deals with friction, lubrication, and wear in all contacting pairs. Mainly, it deals with friction, lubricating, and wear when the pair of parts are come in contact with each other. Tribologically, Tribological knowledge helps to improve service life, safety, and reliability of interacting machining components, and which will also yields the economical benefits. Okay, mainly tribological knowledge helps to improve the service life of the component. Okay, let's see some examples where tribology knowledge is not used, the machine parts are got failure. Okay, let us consider few machine components, failure of which could have been avoided using the tribological knowledge. You can see the example over here. Here, graphite seal is there. Graphite seal is there. Carbon graphite seal is employed to avoid the leakage of steam from rotary joints of paper industry. Okay, these components is failed due to the adhesive wear. If you had the knowledge of the adhesive wear, which is a component of engineering tribology, you might have avoided this type of failure. Okay, due to adhesive wear, uneven surface will lead to reduction in the mechanical contact area. If the components or the designer had the knowledge of where are the tribology components, then this failure have been avoided. Let's see the second example. This is cam, pitting wear in the cam surface. Okay, you can see the object over here. Pitting wear took place here. Cams are used to transmit motion in reciprocating motion. These components are subjected to jerks in sliding distance, which leads to form some pits on the cam surface. Creation of pits on the cam surface increases the noise pollution and reduces the mechanical performance. Okay, if this while designing the component, if it have been had the knowledge of the tribology, then this failure of reduced completely. Let's see one more example. Magnetic bearing. Magnetic bearing. Here, magnetic bearing are also known as contact leviation. In this figure, a repulsive type permanent magnet bearing is shown. Due to improper design and external noise factor, bearing failed within 3 hours of operation at the relative speed of 315 rpm. 115 rpm. Here, wear scare due to the edge loading take place. Now we will see history of the tribology. Tribology, the concept of tribology has started in 1880 BC, where the basic knowledge of frictional phenomena has taken place. That is nothing but archaeological findings from the ancient Roman and Egypt empires, where friction was introduced. Okay, in the 1880 BC, the basic knowledge of friction was started, and after that, from 1400 to 1800 AD, some rules and some studies have made for the friction developed. For example, you can see in the bottom, Da Vinci law, we will call, which was stated in 1500 AD, coefficient of friction, and Amantus friction force of law, and Coulomb's. These three gentlemen has made lot of research in the friction, and they are made some guidelines so that that can be followed during the period of 1400 to 1800 AD. After that, in 1800 to 1950 AD, scientific studies and the friction wear and the advancement of other sciences has made, and that is due to industrial revolution after 1850 AD. What we'll call gentleman tower and the hydrodynamic lubrication, Rager, Holm, all these people are made some studies scientifically and experimentally proved some rules, and that rules are implemented during 1800 to 1950 AD. After that, the concept of tribology introduced in 1966. Further, tribology is further classified into macrotribology and the nanotribology. Classified that one. This is happened during the period of 1964 to 2014 due to the emerging proximal probes or microscopes and the surface apparatus and the computational techniques for stimulating tips and surface interaction and interfacial properties. Okay, the concept was introduced in the 20th century and the beyond. Here, it is classified two types based upon the surface contactness, whether it is comes under nanotribology or macrotribology, based upon the contact points it has come. The history of tribology has started 5 lakhs BC. In ancient times, on the order of about 5 lakhs BC, early humans learned by rubbing sticks together with a great force and they could create a fire. The ancient people have made the fire by rubbing the two stones against each other. That is nothing but we will call as a friction. Due to the friction between the two stones, a fire is generated. A spark is generated, due to which a fire is created by keeping the dry cotton or dry fire catching material. Okay, similarly around 1300 3500 BC, we learned that rolling motion required less effort than sliding and the wheel was invited. Okay, here rolling motion requires less effort because sliding the objects which are slide to move, we require more amount of energy, but rolling object requires less amount of energy. This concept was introduced around 3500 BC. Tribology is nothing but a multidisciplinary subject. It is not a new subject. It is a combination of all subjects. To understand the tribology, you should have the many concepts or many subjects you need to have. You can see the fluid mechanics, fluid power systems, and the solid mechanics, machine elements, machine design, friction, and the molecular and the wear, and you need to also have the research about this all the concepts. Once the all the subjects advancements are research in above mentioned subjects are had the knowledge, then it will comes to the tribology. Mainly tribology will be dealing with the wear. Okay, this tribology also consider effects of the material science. Whatever the material science research and the tribology and the where will be under the one concept. Once the concept of tribology is known, there are many impacts of the tribology usage or applications of tribology in industry. Here, life cycle assessment can be possible with the help of tribology. Life cycle assessment means with the reduction in the wear, and that one you can reduce the calculate, you can reduce or increase the life cycle assessment. You can assess the what will be the life of the a component. Okay, if wear is the less, where life cycle will be more. If the wear is more, life cycle period will be less. Okay, tribology also make impact on what we'll call environment of the component or in general of the general environment also. When the wear concepts of friction concepts or lubrications are there, if we are using number of lubrications which are hazardous to the environment, which will create the impact on the environment also. So tribology helps what type of the lubricants you have to use, how much amount of lubricants you have to use, it will mention. So indirectly it will reduce the environmental conditions or pollution conditions also. Okay, then next tribology also deals with what we'll call load carrying capacity of a component. Load carrying capacity of a component. Here, based upon the study of the component on different applications like wear, friction, and lubrication, we can mention how much load a component can carry. So the knowledge of tribology helps in uh, estimating the load carrying capacity of the component. Tribology again undergoes to the or applied to the nanotechnology, nothing but the nanoparticles. It leads to the study of nanoparticles. Okay, tribology also useful for what we'll call lubrication. It will mention what type of lubrication is to be used at one particular place based upon the nature of contact. In some places, it may be using oil lubrication. In some places, you'll be using grease lubrication, or you can classify it as a liquid lubrication and the solid lubrication. Okay. Next to tribology comes to the what we'll call tribochemistry. Tribochemistry is nothing but study of particle chemistry. Here, particles are analyzed based upon its composition and the constitution, like that. Next, tribology also deals with biomechanics. Okay, not only these subjects, tribology is related and it is used in most of the components and the most of the applications. Now let's see some examples of the tribology. Tribology is used everywhere, but we will try to consider some industrial application. First one, tire and the road. Here, high friction is required. Second one, in bearings also tribology is used. Here, low friction and wear is required. And the screw joints, low friction in threading and no wear in contact. Okay. Skyno, here low friction of the gliding between high in the grip zone. Shoe floor, brake disc, cam follower, piston ring cylinders, chalkboard, and the pen paper stand. All these are some of the few examples where the tribology is used, where tribological application are used. We will try to see this example one by one with the neat diagrams and the sketch. Now see the first example, that is nothing but the type and the tire and the road. Here high friction is required. Okay, high friction is required because when the vehicle is moving on the road, based upon the tire and the road conditions, there is a skidding of tires is possible based upon its banking angle and based upon its the speed of the vehicle. All those are required. If friction is very less, there is a chance of failure of contact between the tire and the road. Because of that reason, here high friction is required, that is to be generated. So to have the knowledge of that one, you need to have the knowledge of the tribology, because friction is a main component of the tribology. Okay, second example you can see. Second example you can see what we'll call bearings, low friction and wear required. Here in bearings, you can see here wear component you can see over here. Okay, in bearings you should have the low friction, and the whatever the wear amount should be very less. When the wear is more, there is a more chances of the components getting damaged, and because of result the mechanical performance of the component will be reduced. We will see one more few examples. So you can see the screw joint where low friction in the threading and no wear in the contact. Okay, you can see it, what we'll call nut and bolt example here. Here in the screw joints, the threading on the bolt we will call as the screw joint. Here low friction in threading is required, but no wear is required in the contact, because if the wear occurs in the screw joints or threadings will go away are worn away. Due to result, there is a failure of the fastening joint, which will impact what we will call which will impact the mechanical efficiency of that joint. Now we will see another an example. Sky snow. Here, low friction for gliding between high in grip zone. Here, the person who you can see the person gliding or sliding on the ice, so that there should be frictional force should be act in the upward direction, and the linear acceleration should be acting in the downward direction, and the gravity force is downward direction, and the normal force is acting perpendicular to the person. Here, low friction should be there for high grading or grip zone purpose. Tribology is everywhere. Okay, you can see in the common examples also shoe and the floor, and we will call as the friction between the shoe and the floor or ground. We can say medium friction for easy walking and the dancing. Here, medium friction is required because low friction also leads to the sliding of the person, and the high friction leads to the what we'll call not proper way of walking or difficult way of walking, or you observing more energy for making the food from one place to the another. So because of that reason, medium friction is required for easy walking and dancing. Here, analysis of the friction is very much required. That will leads to the study of tribology. Now you can see another an example called brake disc. Here, controlled stable friction, not too low or too high is required. Here, in mechanical components like what we'll call brake disc, here, high friction is not required, low friction is not required, but the stable friction is required, because when we are applying the brake, you need to have the exact amount of the friction required so that the tire get stopped at the particular place immediately. If low friction is there, it will take more time for applying the brake, and if a high friction is required, high friction is there, it will immediately apply the brakes over there. So to avoid those low and the high friction disadvantage as diseffects, we will be using what we'll call stable friction concept. Here also, to understand the role of the friction and the amount of the friction, you need to have the analysis of tribology. Now we will see another example called brake disc, controlled stable friction, not too low or too high. Here, the tribology helps to analyze the what is the role of friction, how much friction is to be applied, and how much friction has to be applied. Okay, here too low friction and high friction will not be suitable in the brake disc, because the amount of friction required here is stable friction. If low friction is there, then the person applies the brakes, then it will be stopping after some lapse of time, that is nothing but 1 minute or 15 seconds, like that it will be lapse will be there. If your high friction is there, immediately will you apply, there is a chance of sliding the vehicle or sliding the automobile. So to avoid that one, we need to have the stable friction, that we will call stable friction we will call. To understand the concept of stable friction, we need to have the concept of tribology. Now we will see one more example called tribology, a cam and follower where no wear and the low friction is required. Cam and follower is nothing but in the cam, you will be having the contact between the two components. The thing about the cam and the follower, where when the two parts are in contact with each other, there is a chance of wear occurring. To avoid wear occurring, we need to have the proper lubrication in between them. And here in this type of joints, you need to have the concept of low friction. Okay, to understand the concept of wear and understand the concept of friction, then you used to have the tribological knowledge, that we will call as a wear and the friction is the components of the tribology, and the main sources of the tribology are wear and the friction and the lubrication. We will see one more example. You can see over here piston ring and the cylinder. Here also you will be having the no wear condition and the low friction condition. These type of examples explain the what is the role of tribology in day-to-day industrial applications. You can see tribological applications in what we will call in the normal day-to-day life also. Here, chalk and board example is the one more example. Here you can see the controlled wear process. Here, when the professor or when the faculty is writing on the board for continuously, you will see the reduction of a size of a chalk piece. That is nothing but the wear of a chalk piece here. Here, controlled wear process is required in this particular time. If the wear rate is more, within the period of time, like 10 minutes and 15 minutes only, the another professor has to use another chalk piece. So if it is controlled wear rate is there, you can use the what we'll call one chalk piece for a period of a one class. Here you'll be having the many types of applications of wear process over there. If you study the what we'll call tribology concept, you will be understanding which component is wearing, which component is wearing at what rate. Okay, so tribology helps in understanding the wear process and the wear process and applications of the tribology in different sectors. We will try to see one more example, nothing but the pen and paper. It is also come under the controlled wear process only. Here, when the person is writing on the book or on the paper, here fluid will be moving or reducing. Here, the fluid is reduced because the fluid is absorbed by the paper. So, as a result of which wear will take place between the pen and the paper. Here, controlled wear process is required. Otherwise, more wear is occurring, then the fluid will completed very fast. Then, because of that one, you need to change the what we will call pen frequently. Okay, if it is more wear is there, more amount is required. Okay, these are some few examples of the what we'll call the tribology. You can see the tribology examples in many applications. Many applications. This is a brief introduction about what we'll call the tribology and its applications in day-to-day life. Okay, in upcoming classes we will see the what are the components will play major role in that one in the tribology, which are the main source of tribology, and how can we rectify or what are the factors to be followed to control that components will be studying briefly. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.